Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Freund.
What's up, everybody? This is Herschel Freund from High School Top 200, and I'd like to welcome you to the Monday morning meeting, Top 200 podcast. It's been a pretty good week. Still haven't recovered any of my stuff, but that's alright. Had a pretty good weekend with Thanksgiving Day celebrations because my wife's American, so we had to celebrate that. So yeah, big feed, all that kind of stuff. Got my slow cooker going, my smoked some meat, which is pretty cool because you can sort of sit there with your barbecue and have an offset barbecue and just think about stuff, which was like pretty good because pretty much what I'm going to talk about, I just sat there and thought about it because I didn't want to rubbish it without really thinking about what I was going to say and what I actually believe in as well. Because I think that's kind of the other thing, right? Is that so? With the changes in rules, right, and I'm talking about the Pacific Islanders, Samoan, Tongan, and Fiji being able to get back players that have played for Tier 1 nations and are able to play for their country that their parents, I guess, are from, or where their culture comes from. And because I think there's a big difference between culture and country of where you're from, especially for people like myself. Like I consider myself a Samoan Kiwi. I'm a Samoan Kiwi, like I'm a Samoan culturally first, and then I'm a Kiwi after that. And I think there's kind of a lot of people like myself in that boat as well, where being brought up Samoan, lived in Samoa, even though my Samoan's terrible, like mannerisms and stuff like that are all Samoan as well. And so I think like guys like myself have that sort of struggle of not really identity struggle, because I think when you are a Samoan, you're a Samoan, or if you're Tongan, then you're Tongan. Even though we're raised here, born here and raised here, we know where we're from. We just kind of want to know where we fit. And I feel like with the Samoans, Tongans, and Fijians in the rugby world, they didn't fit, or they don't feel like they fit anywhere, because they had to choose a country and not really be able to represent their culture in a way. And so, like, I think this is a big deal in what the changes are, and I think like all the other Samoans, Tongans, and Fijians, we all want to thank Dan Leo and his work that he has done to push this, along with everybody else over, I guess, since the starting of professional rugby, where, Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji have been trying to fight just to be able to play for their own countries and not have to play for New Zealand and Australia just out of circumstance or even like monetary value as well. And this is kind of like one of those significant moments in the history of rugby where I feel like things are going to change. And I didn't want to come out and just, shizzle over everything and all the hard work that they had done. But after like the general excitement of it, I wanted to really think about what this meant, or how this means, or how this change, what it means to the game, and if it's actually going to change anything. Because like some of the things that I thought about, like first off, I thought, oh yeah, this is great, and I go, well, my kids are Samoan and Tongan, and so if you're an Australian player or an English player or an All Black that is Samoan and Tongan, someone like Richie Mo'unga, like now he has to choose. He has to choose which one. You know, and his mum saying one thing, his dad saying the other thing, and he's kind of in the middle of like, oh shoot, now I've got to make a decision. And which is like one of those things that I kind of thought about too, because I guess my daughters are going to be the same thing. Is it's like, no, I'm Samoan and Tongan. Like, there's a bunch of TokoUsos around that are just like in this kind of, that are going to be in this situation, and you don't want to be disrespectful to your dad or your mum, but one of those things have to come off. And that was like probably the first thing that I thought. I was like, oh shoot, so they can only choose one side to go to. And if I remember rightly in the rules, it does say that you can only change once. And so that's going to be the downfall. And I understand World Rugby in this, like their stand in this, and being able to try and at least bring some order to it, just so that you're not going from one to the next to the next to the next. But I feel like there's a big difference between a lot of those kind of things, and in terms of you jumping from one to the other. Because like I understand it where guys go to another, like James Lowe, who goes to, like, you know, Bundy Aki, who goes to Ireland. And then he plays for Ireland, and he's Samoan, you know, and he's just there because the rules say that if you're there for 3 years, then you can just play for them, you know, like without any kind of real cultural connection to it. Because I don't think that in their mindset and making the rules, it's got nothing about culture and identity. It's just about how long you live somewhere, not how you feel. Like, I don't think Bundy feels like he's Irish. You know, like, I don't think he feels like he's Irish because he wasn't brought up or anything there. I think it's different from, you know, some of those other guys, like, you know, the guys that play for England, the brothers that play for England, and, you know, those kind of guys. I think with Billy and that, I think it's different because they were pretty much raised there, or born there and raised there. But like, oh no, they were raised there. So like, you know, you can understand those kind of guys. But I think for fellas like Bundy and that, I don't think that they feel like they're Irish or culturally Irish at all. But because the rules say, then they play for them. And I think where Samoans and Tongans and Fijians come into it is a bit different. Like, even like someone like Malakai Fekitoa, I don't feel like he feels like he's Kiwi. I think he just feels like he's Tongan. Even though he came here for school and went to Wesley and played for All Blacks and all that kind of stuff, I think that he'd feel like he's Tongan. But then I kind of, you know, those were the kind of the things that I thought of straight away. The other thing the second thing that I thought of was that when I was reading, you know, what the criteria is that there's still a board that decides whether you can switch to another country or not. Like, there's still a board that decides whether you can actually do it or not. And it doesn't really say what the criteria or the reasoning for them to say yes or no is. They just said that we're going to do it, that they are going to decide that. Which to me also is like a problem because there's no line of there's no rules to say what they're going to say yes to and no to. They're just going to decide. And that was the other thing that wasn't quite clear, is that they didn't really say what it is, you know. And because there's still that 3-year stand down, then they get to decide whether you can or not. Which is kind of strange. Because then that also means that they can say no. You know, they can deny someone's swap. Even though I think 3 years is too long. I think like 2 years or a year and a half, I think, is enough. I think that's a longer period of time to say that, you know, you're, you know, you've been out of it long enough. Or that you can switch and decide. But that 3 years thing is a quite a long time. And like I kind of thought about that as well, like that period of time of 3 years. Because like Ardie Savea, who said that, yeah, he would love to play for Samoa, like Ardie Savea right now, I think by the end of it, because Ardie's like 26 or 27 or something like that, and I don't think that he'll leave before the World Cup but to play for Samoa, because then he would miss it. But then he'll be there in time for the next one. And he'll be like 31. Because the other one is like Patrick Tuipulotu will be the same. Where he's 27, 26 or 27. And then if he's going to stay to the World Cup, then that will add on 2 more years. And then, you know, another 3 after. And then, so he'll be 32 by the next World Cup. By the, not this one in 2023, but the next one. And so, if you were going to leave at this stage, or for the next World Cup, those guys will be in their 30s. So 3 years after they leave a country, they're going to be too old. They're not going to be too old, but they're not going to be in their prime. You know, they're not going to be in their prime. They'll all be experienced players. And basically, it's kind of like that once everyone is finished with their careers with, you know, say, you know, England, France, or New Zealand, Australia, is that most of these guys are going to be in their late 20s or 30s, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. It means that everyone's going to be really experienced once they get to their second nations. Once they get to Samoa and Tonga, they're all going to be in their late 20s, early 30s, sometimes mid 30s, depending on who they play and how long they go for. And it's great. Like, that's kind of what you want at a World Cup, but at the same time, it's also quickly into the national side, then quickly out of it. So there's no like really build of it. And so that was the other thing that I was thinking. But when I thought about that, I thought, okay, well then that's pretty good, but still not ideal. But then I started to think about all the players that we have now, because I thought, well, like, you would like to play for Samoa, but you would like to play for Samoa at your prime. You'd like to play for Tonga at your prime, or have some really good years, not injury years, but really good years. And this is where I feel like the board is going to deny players, right? And this is why I say this. And this is just me. And I don't know if all the rugby players are thinking about this right now, but I definitely think that they're going to think about it after I say this. And so everyone that knows all these players, give this on to them and let them listen to this. Because this is going to be a game changer, right? 100% a game changer. This is going to be the NBA. And the reason why I say that, and I'm just going to use Samoan players. Now, this is where New Zealand and Australia have got to think about how young they're going to choose these players. Because right now, if you choose a young player, and then they get their cap, and then they think more on the business line of stuff, they're going to say, I'm going to get my cap for the Wallabies or England or the All Blacks, and then I'm going to go to another club or overseas to earn more money, just keep that cap, and then I'll be able to still play for Samoa or Tonga. And if you pick them young and then you give them a lot of, like, you know, through their younger 20s, then change over, then by the end of that, they'll be able to play for Samoa in their late 20s or so. There's going to be some problems with that. Now, this is what I'm saying. So I went through the rosters of the Wallabies and the All Blacks, just those two. I didn't look at any French teams, club teams, or English club teams or anything like that. I just took the Wallaby players and the New Zealand players and the All Black players. Now, Jordan Muelesi is one, Hunter Paisami is another one, Isaiah Peresi is another one, Jordan Patai is another one, Rob Leota is one, Pune Famasili is another one, Noah Lolesio is one, and then Pete Samu is another one. So that's one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 Wallabies right now who are all 22 and 23. And then you've got Noah and Jordan who are 20-year-olds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 Wallaby players who are all Samoans. 2023 comes around, then they take their break from there. Which means in 5 years, you know, Jordan's going to be 25, Hunter's going to be 27, 28. You know, all these guys are going to be in their later 20s, but still under 30 years old. Asofa Omua, Tyrell Lomax, Akita, Dalton, Rico, Anton, Leonard Brown, and Caleb Clark are all going to be under that 30 years old, not by this 2023 World Cup, but by the next one. Which means that all these guys, and that's 9 Wallaby players, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 All Black players that are all Samoans, that are all under the age of, say, 25, and then by the time the next World Cup comes along, they're all still going to be around that 27 to under 30 age. I mean, Anton Leonard Brown will probably be 30 by then. So if that's the Manu Samoa team by then, and this is where it kind of comes into the NBA style, right? Because let's say they hear this, like if they hear what I'm saying, if Asofa listens to this, if Akita and Dalton all listen to this, and Caleb in there, and I know that these guys know Hunter from when he was at Mangere College, and I know they know who he is, and then they obviously meet Jordan and Isaiah and Jordan Muelesi and Pattaya, and they meet Rob, all those kind of guys. Obviously, Peter's the other one that knows all these guys because he played here too. But if all these guys start talking, and then they go, well, hold on, if Herschel's right, and we can all play for Manu Samoa at one time, and we make, what is it, 2027 is the one after? If I'm wrong, whatever. If they all say, well, let's aim for 2027, after this World Cup, we'll all sort of renounce that we're going to Samoa, and you've got those players all going to Samoa, and what if Patrick Tuipulotu, as well as Adi Savea, who are going to be in their 30s, early 30s, also go, well, we're all going to leave too, and then you've got 2 natural leaders from the All Blacks, as well as all these young guys who have all now played 20, 30 games for the All Blacks too, and the Wallabies, and then they all end up in Samoa. They all end up in that team. That's going to be the game changer. That really is going to be the game changer. And the worst thing about this is where I don't like the board making that decision for you to say whether you can. Because let's say all these guys go, okay, we'll all put out our names, all of us. They all talk together each other and they go, okay, cool, we all agree. Then they all put in their names. They all go overseas and play overseas as well after this. And then the board goes, hold on, that Samoan team looks too good. They look too good. They look too stacked. We can't have this. We can't have this happen if that Samoan team looks too stacked. Because all those names that I just read, most of them are all starters right now they're pretty much all starters for their club teams or, you know, their franchises, but a lot of them are starters for the All Blacks and Wallabies too. But we're only talking about like 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 23-year-old, 22-year-old, 24-year-old. By the time the 2027 World Cup comes along, these guys are all going to be 28, 29, 30 at the highest, who I think Anton Leonard Brown will be the oldest one out of this list that I read. And all these guys can all potentially be the whole starting back line as well as on the bench and pretty much most of their forward pack. They're not going to want to see that. Scotland's not going to want to see that team. England probably won't want to see this team. The All Blacks and Wallabies would not want to see this team put together of Samoans from New Zealand and Australia. And I'm just talking about those ones. Let's say that, what's his name? Is it Jordan Umaga from England? Also, because he's played here in Auckland, goes to some of his Blues mates. Hold on, how come you didn't tell me I'm going to come and join? What if he decides to do the same? Because the thing is that I still think that the World Rugby is going to fear these nations. They're going to be scared of the Samoan, Tongan and Fijis if they actually pull it all together. Now, obviously, money's going to be a part of it in terms of whether they want to switch to Samoa or not. But if they've been playing for the Wallabies and All Blacks and they've already got their money, then they go overseas, their money doesn't seem to be that big of a deal when they're making this kind of decision, then that's the kind of team that you're going to get out of this. Asofa Omua, Tyrell Lomax, Akita, Dalton, Rico, Anton, Caleb, Jordan Walesia, Hunter Paisami, Isaiah Perese, Jordan Pataya, Rob Leota, Ponefa Mosili, Noah Lolosio, and then Pete Samu. All those guys in one Manu Samoa team. And those are just the ones that I picked out of the All Blacks and Wallabies. Like, I didn't go through all the rosters of, like, you know, the Super Rugby teams or anything like that, or look for other guys that are over there, overseas as well. But that's going to be a scary thought. That's exciting to me because I'm Samoan. Hell yes, I would want this to happen. Hell yes, I would want all these guys to talk to each other and go, hey, Herschel's right. Let's just all jump onto the 2027 one. Why not? To me, I feel like this is going to be a race for New Zealand, for Samoa, Tonga and Fiji to go, hey, let's see who can make the finals first. Because that squad that I just read out, that's a finals squad. That's a finals squad. You're going to be scared of a team like that. And I'm just reading out the Samoan team. I don't even go through the Tongan names. But all you Tongans right now are thinking, oh, shoot. Like, look at Tupou Vai and Samasone, like those two. Alone, and like by the time that those two are like 26, 27, you're like, oh, holy crap, we're going to have like one of the best hookers and one of the best locks in the world having a chance to actually play for Tonga. And those are just the ones that I'm just thinking, like Shannon Frizzell could go over, like guys like that. The, you know, Ofatunga Fasi and those kind of guys, they can all go over too. They'll be in their late 30s, like 35 and stuff, but still, that's the kind of players that you want in those kind of moments and in those kind of teams, the real veterans that can go, oh, hold on, let's go. Let's take our time. Let's do this. And then, you know, they talk each other through all these situations. And so you do want some of those old heads in there. But if you look at all the Samoans and all the Tongans that are around the country as well and around all these other teams, I mean, Nella Tupou he could be one too that just switches over after this World Cup in 2023. Go, I'm going to go play for Tonga. And a lot of those guys will probably all do the same. The Tongans are probably all going to have the same idea that I'm just talking about and just talking to each other and go, hey, yeah, let's just make this super team, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like an NBA super team. That's why I say it like that. That it's going to be like the NBA, because all these guys are going to jump in each other's DMs and go, yo, let's make this switch. I think Herschel's right. It's not like we're going to be, you know, starving for money or anything like that. But I think that he's right in doing this. Now, the difference is going to be, and this is the other thing that I don't really like about this, is that But they say that the board can also decide whether you can or not go. The other thing is that they can also say, yes, you can go and play. But if your club says, no, you can't play for Samoa in this game, you can't play for Samoa in that game, and everyone's getting ready for the World Cup, but your club is going, no, you can't go to that because I pay your fees, you have to play for our club, and then they can't actually turn out for Samoa and all these other build-up matches. We need to have the same thing written in all our contracts for Samoa, Tonga and Fiji, that the same ones that all these other guys have. If you play for England, if you play for, you know, Scotland and Ireland and France and that, it's like you should be able to let your players go and not hold them to that. And it should be in the contract, should be in everyone's contract. I don't even care if you don't play for Samoa, Tonga or Fiji. Like, you could play for Georgia. And if your national team is playing and they need you to play, I feel like the club should let them just go. They should give them that thing to go. Now, the way of taking care of this is making sure that everybody's windows for national sides are all on the same window, which is probably a hard thing to do. But when it comes to playing for your national side, which is the World Cup, you know, as a World Cup thing, and that's what you want everyone in the world to watch at one time, is it's like, then let's produce some proper teams. Let the Samoans and Tongans all play. Let the Fijians and that all play as well for their sides and get ready for a proper World Cup. But I feel like World Rugby is going to use clubs to tell their player that is going, who has just changed to Samoa, and go, no, you can't play for them. We need you for our game. It's a warm-up against the second division, but we need you to play for us. That's what I don't like. That's what I fear right now. Those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking of where I'm going, well, there's no real rule on that. As long as you put it in their contracts to say, whatever national side, representative side that you have, or if you guys have a tour, then we'll let you go for that. Take your pay cut or whatever it's going to be, but we'll let you go for that. We'll let you play for your country. And everyone be on the same, everyone get the same treatment. It's the same thing. It's like, let them go and play. But that's where the other thing, where World Rugby will go, yep, we're gonna finalize the switch. You can play for Samoa, and then turn around and call the club and go, hey, they've got a game at this time, and they've got a game against England. Hold your players back. We don't want you playing them. We don't want them to play against England, or we don't want them playing against, you know, Wales at this game. There's too many of them. There's too many good ones. If this list that I read out to you, all those players decided to do that, and then they had to have, and they wanted to have a proper build up to the World Cup, and it meant getting approval from their clubs to actually go to to these games and to this national camp, and then your club says no, and the World Rugby is going, hey, we let you stop, but your club is saying no. It's like, how do we know? Because we got this distrust for you guys that in the background you're saying, hey, just don't let them go. You know, that's looking too good. They've got experienced All Blacks and experienced Wallabies in that side. They've now changed over. It's like, I don't think Wales can beat them. And with this team that I read out, no, they can't beat them. If all these guys switched over right now to Samoa and they went and had a game, I don't think Wales would be able to beat this team. This team of real young, talented guys. Now imagine those guys when they're the 26 to 29. It's like, no way. Like, everyone will be scared of this. That's like an All Black, a mature All Black Wallaby England kind of roster. It's like all these guys that I just read out to you. That's what everyone's going to be scared of. That's what I fear, is that kind of treatment. Because I don't feel like, and this is where I think that 3 years is too long, but also 3 years sort of helps, sort of puts in the mind of some of these guys, will it be too late by then that if I make the switch now, that I'll be a bit over the hump and like I won't be as good, and so I won't be able to give as much as I can or my best to my country. And that's what I feel like 3 years does. Because, like, let's say all these guys, they all left after the 2023 World Cup. They can't even play for Samoa in a build-up. They just have that 1 year to all get ready as a team for that Manu Samoa. That's just that 1 year. Now the aim for that was that it's gonna be like, well, if that's the case, then they're gonna have a 1 year build-up. They're going to play 2027, and then only a few of them will be able to make it to that next one, the 2031. But hopefully by then, the other Samoans who are younger than these guys have all seen what's happened and go, okay, we're going to do the same thing, and then you just refill the gaps and refill the gaps and refill the gaps. Which brings me back to the point of like Australia and New Zealand are going to have to think about how young they want to choose these players, because in their mind they're going to start thinking, well, do we choose them young, that they get a bunch of caps when they're young and then they leave us by 25, or do we not give them a cap and hold them till about 23 and then build them up so that they have about 4 years till they're 27, 28, then we'll let them go to the other country. By then they'll be 32 when they get to play for the other country, but then without as many caps and as much experience. Because that's going to be the mind game in this. Like, their planning is going to be different now. The planning is all going to be about how old do we pick them? Or are they going to stay around? Because if you're supposed to be making the All Blacks and you're 22 and you're 21, 22, you're supposed to make the All Blacks and they're not choosing you just to hold out just a little bit, and then France starts coming with that money, then you're like, okay, I'm going to France to take this money, and then I'm going to go play for Manu Samoa. Because you're overlooking me when you know I should be in there. Now look at all these young guys that have made it really young, like me, Dalton, and that they all made it really young too. I mean, Tupou just made it like as a 20-year-old. And Josh Lord, I think Josh Lord's like half Cook Island or something like that too. I don't know if they've got a good enough rugby team to make the World Cup, but if he felt like it just for, I know, some giggles to go and have a play for Cook Islands, then maybe, you know. But that's where like all these, they're going to have to start thinking about how young do you want to choose them, because if all these guys plan, okay, yeah, I just want to play for 5 years for the All Blacks, and then I'll go overseas, make some money, and then play for Samoa and Tonga and Fiji. Because, I mean, like, look at Sevu Reece in them. Like, Sevu Reece could do the same thing and go, I think I've had my time with the All Blacks. I'll go make some money. You know, I'll hit up all the other Fijians around, you know, and make sure that everyone, and to me, I think that it's not like like doing it by yourself is cool. Like, that's all right. Like, I understand it. But if you did it with a bunch of guys all wanting to actually win the World Cup, not just represent Samoa, but win a World Cup, to me, this is how you should start thinking. Because the Boston Celtics wanted a ring. Kevin Garnett was sick of losing in Minnesota, and so was, you know, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce was getting wasted by himself, scoring 25 points, still getting hammered every single game, and they go, stuff this, we're going to the Boston Celtics. We won a chip. LeBron James did the same. Now, I understand the difference in terms of like how much one valued player means to a basketball team of a starting five. But if you want to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Samoan players from Wallabies and the All Blacks into a Manu Samoa team by 2027 to have that game, that's a game changer. That's a team that can win. Is it not? Is it not like by 2027, if we read out this roster and read out how many caps that they had for the Wallabies and the All Blacks, you would not say that's a winning roster? Having all these professional guys that have played for the Wallabies and the All Blacks, learn how to play rugby, learn what their craft is, learn what their position specialist is, and then go to a Manu Samoa side and put it all together and go, in their maturity, go, yep, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to, process all of this, put it all together. These are all our systems. We have a great coach. And I mean, what if they got Pat Lam back? What if you got all these guys back, all these Samoan coaches back, and put them all together? Tana Umaga was ready by then to come back, and, maybe Aaron Major does jump on. With, say, Lala Mapusoa, like, why not have all these guys in there and have a roster like this? Now, the other thing that I was thinking about, too, with this is that, well, one thing that we've always struggled with, and this is kind of where I feel like, this is somewhere I feel like that if Manu Samoa had a team like this, I think financially they can also profit off a team like this. And a system like this where guys can come in year after year, and then as all of them change their mind to go from, all these other tier 1 nations into Manu Samoa after that, is that if a team like this went to play in England, went to play Ireland, went to play France, there has to be some kind of incentive kickback to them as a team like this to say that we need some of those proceeds that you guys get. Like, I don't know what the split is, or if there even is a split. But if you're taking a team like this to play a French team, how much does Samoa get from that? If any. Like, I don't know this stuff. Like, I don't know what the cut is. But obviously it's not a lot because Manu Samoa players haven't even been getting paid. Tongan players don't even really get paid. Like $120 or something? Or $150, where All Blacks and them and English players are getting $40,000, $30,000 per game just to play. But then the other side doesn't get anything that takes the field to play against these guys. If I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But my understanding is that they don't get anything. Now, I don't understand this when you've got broadcasting rights. You got ticket sales, like door sales. You got streaming rights as well, and then you got merchandise. Now, why isn't there a percentage cut off for these teams? Why can't, it's like, okay, if you guys are getting the broadcasting money for this game, give us a percentage of the tickets sold. Give us some streaming rights in different parts of the world where our guys can stream it, where our union can stream it, and they can make money off that. If you guys are going to sell those streaming rights to people up in Europe, let us sell to the South Pacific, New Zealand, and Australia, and America, and get that money, because so that we can keep doing stuff too. Because the other side of it is that financially those guys are benefiting, where Samoa and Tonga and Fiji seem to travel around and they're not getting any kind of incentive. Because some of them can't even pay for hotels. They have to pay for it out of their own money. Now, you could say, it's like, oh, well, there's corrupt people in Samoa. It's like, yeah, but not that corrupt where they can't pay for stuff. That means they're not really even getting much to even be corrupt. They're not even getting that much money at all in the first place. So what is that cut? But if you have a roster like this, you can then market your team and Manu Samoa team. You can market this team that I just said down on paper to the rest of the world, and then get a huge kickback on financial kickback and support from broadcasting, ticket sales, stuff like that. Because then our argument will be different now. Our argument's going to be different. Our argument's going to be, no, we've got Hunter Paisami in this team. We've got Jordan Pataya in this team. We've got Asofa Moore and Dalton Papali'i in this team with the Ioane brothers. It's like, and you're saying that people are not coming to see them? 100% they're coming to see those guys. So don't talk about like, oh, we don't bring that much value. You're just the uniform on the other side of the team. It's like, no. Not with a team like this. Not with experienced players like this, with Wallaby caps and All Black caps like this. This is not those Manu Samoa teams anymore. So my side of the argument is going to be that of, if they're going to be able to do something like this where it's an NBA style kind of thing, and all these guys get together, they make the decision, they all come into that team, and then they go, okay, this is our first photo shoot. We're going to start marketing this team properly. And not just marketing to people around the world and all that kind of stuff, but marketing to the rugby world in terms of ticket sales, in terms of broadcasting deals, in terms of streaming sites as well. Because the other side of it is going to be like, well, we're coming to see this Manu Samoa team. Not just you guys. Oh, we're just going to see if England has a good match. It's like, no, we're going to see if England can actually win this game. Because that other side is really, really good. Now, again, I don't know this. But I can't see the All Blacks going up to England and playing England and going, oh no, we won't take anything. Like 100%, they're going to be splitting something. So why can't the Fijians, Tongans and Samoans get something out of this? Why can't they get something out of this now with this kind of team or these kind of circumstances? Again, all you Samoans, Tongans and Fijian players that are playing professional rugby right now, that you guys play for all the teams, and all these guys that I read out, these guys are guys that were part of top 200. So they're all young guys. They all know who I am and what I do. Now, I'm not trying to mislead you to anything. I'm just giving you another perspective to say, oh, shoot, maybe we should do that. Because I'm looking at the other side of this. I'm not looking at just the side of like, oh, let's keep rugby integrity and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, because that integrity's never helped out Samoa, Tonga and Fiji. So my side of it is like, let's do the winning side. I'm going to give you the idea. Let's see how far a lot of you guys take it. Now, I'm just using the rules that these guys have said. But like I said before, the board is the one that decides whether you can or not. Let's say all these guys at the end of 2023, at the end of the World Cup, all of these names end up in that box of, we want to switch nations. And they're like, we're not going to approve all of these guys. Because then that means Samoa's going to be mean. It's like, well then, what's the use of this change? What's the use of this role change if you're not going to do what we want you to do and what you have agreed to do as well? What's the use of all this? Just to make yourselves look good. That's what it's going to be, and that's what I'm scared of. Because let's say that my plan is right. All these guys get approved, and they go, okay, maybe this is just going to be one of those things. And then the next crop of players that finish the year, the World Cup after that, they go, oh, we're just going to do the same thing. Because the other thing that's going to hurt is that the All Blacks are going to hurt. The Wallabies are going to hurt because the whole crop of their guys that were all going to be the senior guys are going, no, we're going to go play for Samoa and Tonga now. And Fiji. And they're going, oh, shoot. How are we going to do this? That's going to be the other idea. Which brings me to go, well, either my plan was that we hold them off by not picking them young, and we can hold them all the way through, or you don't actually pick Samoans and Tongans and Fijians, for the most part. You take the very best ones, and then the other ones you just don't make them All Blacks. Or you pick more Māoris or white fellas in the team. Because that's probably what it's going to come down to. Or if you're going to give them more money to stay, but then the Māoris and the white guys are going to be like, hey, if you're giving them more money to stay, it's like, where's my money too? Which is rightfully fair. That's exactly what I would say if I was Māori. But there is going to be a big change of this for everybody. I don't know how many other people are thinking about how I'm thinking, but I messaged a few All Blacks that I know, and I told them what my concerns were. Not all of this, but a bit of my concerns. And a lot of them are in the dark too about what would or could happen. This is just what I feel like is going to happen. I feel like that this is going to be a big shift for Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji. But for the rest of the world, it could really, really deplete a lot of the other, well, especially the Southern Hemisphere countries like New Zealand and Australia. It could really do that. It could really do the same for, you know, France and England if they keep bringing over all these young Islander players, bringing them up in the system, and then they go, I'm just going to play for Samoa again, go play for Tonga. And is it good? To me, yeah, because Japanese players are doing the same thing. Japan's taking a whole bunch of Tongans and Samoans too, and making them, you know, making them Japanese players, but then are they going to leave? I don't even know if Japan is considered a tier 1. But can you go from one tier 2 country to another tier 2 country? I really don't know what that answer is. But I really do hope, I hope 100% that all these guys really think about what I've just said. And don't just dismiss me and my opinion of this. Because I feel like I'm right. I feel like I'm on something that is also going to come in, there's also going to be another change within the system once they actually hear this, and I don't even know if they even thought about it. They probably did. They were smart guys. They should have. But maybe that's why the rule of a World Rugby Board is going to be the ones that decide whether we agree with it or not. Because if I was English and I didn't want Samoa or Tonga, Fiji to beat England or become close to beating us, or if I was Irish or Welsh or Scottish and I was on the board, I'd be like, no. If you're thinking like me, I'll be like, no, don't let those guys do that. Like, why would I want the Ioane brothers, Dalton, Anton, Asofa Omura and Tyrell all to be on the same Manu Samoa team? And then we get the Wallaby side coming into and go, oh yeah, Hunter, Isaiah, Jordan, both Jordans want to come in, Rob wants to come in, you know, Pune Pete, like all these guys, it's like, oh yeah, Noah said he wants to come in too. Like, holy crap, how much of these guys are coming through? It's like, we can't approve all these guys, but then what do we say to them when we say no? You know, how do you say no to that? What is there going to be? What is the reason going to be when they start saying no? When all the players are like, well, hold on, you guys made up this. You know, you guys said that we could do this. Now we've planned it out that by the end of by this age, we're going to all be in the Manu Samoa framework for the World Cup. But you guys are saying no to us now. Then what's the use of that rule? Or is it even really a change? But you just say it as that you can now swap, but it's going to be governed by the board. That to me is where it becomes shady. But if all of this goes well, and it's the way that I think it can go, it's also gonna, you know, up the money side of it for Samoa and Tonga and Fiji, because now you've got superstars in the red, white, and blue, standing with their Fijian crest, the Tongan crest, the Samoan crest on their chest. And you got someone like Adi Savea saying, come and watch Manu Samoa. Come and watch us play. With Dalton Papali'i and Hunter Paisami and Jordan Pataya, you know, and Noah's there, and you got all these guys that were just like, oh shoot, man. These guys were all Wallabies and All Blacks? All at the last World Cup, now they're all in this World Cup, but all wearing blue. To me, that's like a proud moment if that happens. Real proud moment. Real game changer. All we needed was someone like Manu Tuolangi to do the same thing too. But he's kind of like in the same boat as Patrick Tuipulotu and Adi Savea. Hopefully it happens, and it still happens. But that was the mind frame that I was on when I started thinking about this. I was just like, I don't even know if this is that good. I don't even know if it's actually changed something, or if it's changed the directory of how this is going to go. Because I don't feel like I don't feel like they're going to hold to their word when they start seeing these names go over. And it is going to be about names. Because Dalton Papali'i is a good player right now, but when he becomes one of the best players right now in the world, that name is going to come across different. Because then by 2023, when he starts hitting like 40 caps, and you're going, wait, Dalton Papali'i, the All Black, the one that has like 40-something tests, he wants to go to Manu Samoa? And it's like, oh yeah, he does. Like, oh, one of the best number 7s in the world. Oh yeah. Also, the Ioane brothers wants to go too. Well, both of them? And yeah, both of them. They both want to go. You mean Dalton and them? It's like, yeah. Also, Asofa wants to go. Almoa, and him and Tyrell, both for the Hurricanes. Both of them, I think, are going to go too. And then we heard that Anton Leonard-Brown also wants to. And then, like, oh yeah, sorry. Then Hunter Paisami, like those guys, a couple of Reds players want to go to them, and Jordan Pattaya, and like. And then, like, all these names start coming in. That's when things are going to start hurting and start coming into a realization that if we put this all together, they're going to have to start pulling out on these rules and go, oh, well, we're going to have to deny that. Well, or you can go, but you can't, and we can't have you two. Like, we can't have two centres. Like, we can't have Hunter Paisami and Anton Leonard-Brown in the midfield, or Jordan Pattaya and that on the wings with. It's like, well, no, that's too much. It's like, what do you mean that's too much? It's like, that's fine. Like, why can't we have Caleb and Jordan on one wing and, you know, Jordan on the other wing, and then, you know, why can't we have these guys, and then Rico, and that is like, oh, well, no, that's too many players. It's like, what do you mean there's too many players? Oh, it's too much. It's like, wait, you can't say that now. That's where I feel like this is going to go to once all these guys start switching it up. And it's going to be sad for us, I feel like. And I don't want to see who the first player to get denied is. That's going to be the worst thing too. It's going to be the worst thing for World Rugby, and it's going to be the greatest thing for us, because once that person gets denied, and then we can all start asking questions about, wait, why is this? What rule is this? What are you guys actually governing this decision on? It's like, we know that you guys as a board decide whether they can go or not, but what was that decision made on? What did you guys hang your hat on with this? Oh no, the roster's growing too much. It's like, it's not really our business, right? It's not our fault. It's not our fault that we have a bunch of Samoans that play for the All Blacks and the Wallabies. And that's where I feel like it's going to be turning to. Now, I hope this stuff is legitimate, and I hope that this all works out for a lot of these guys. But I feel like somewhere it's, and this may be just my distrust for World Rugby and for the snail pace that they've taken to actually make these rulings and change this rule. But I have a feeling that they've got a scapegoat and a secret door trap of like, no, you can't actually switch because of my pen was blue and it wasn't green like I wanted. You know, some stupid reason that they're going to come up with. And those are my thoughts. I don't know how many other people thought like that, but those are my thoughts on the matter, and not just how unclear it was, but on what rules are you guys governing on for this stuff, so that our players can be clear about if they can actually change, and on what basis they can actually change, and what rules and what laws they can actually make the switch, or you guys just blowing all that hot air just to, you know, make it seem like you guys are making a big change, but you're really not. Now, again, just hit me up. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I still fear that side of it where we're not actually going to get our just due with this, and I think they have some kind of scapegoat or not. But if it's legit and that's what they say it is, and they let all of this go, and all these guys start talking together, and they go, "Wait, let's take his idea. Let's do this. We'll all play for our nation. We'll all play for Samoa, or we'll all play for New Zealand and Wallabies for 2023. But once that's finished, we all switch and we all go over." It's not going to be great for the All Blacks, I can tell you that. Not with that many Samoans leaving. I mean, what if RTS just plays for Manu Samoa at this next one? I wonder if he'll be allowed to do that. Yeah, Voss will probably just choose him without even a rugby team being announced. He's just like, oh no, he's going to be an All Black. Something like that. It would be so ridiculous. But anyway, that's the podcast. Have a think about it. Send me all your thoughts. Let me know how you think. And let me know if you even think it's a good idea or if that's going to happen. But yeah, hit me up. That's my time. Peace.